Thanks to Porch Fest and other contributors, Jamaica Plain has become a prime destination for music outdoors. That was even the case last year with a series of concerts on the spacious grounds of the Eliot School. There's also a sequel to that with a new series of free schoolyard concerts on Sunday afternoon, starting June 6th and continuing through September 26th. To tell us about the lineup are one of the curators, an original Porch Fest organizer with Hoopla Productions, Mindy, and one of the performers on June 13th, chosen as Rhythm and Blues Artist of the Year by the Boston Music Awards, Miranda. I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
I want to start with Mindy, since you are a veteran of outdoor performances. What's it like having a series like this at a time like this?
Well, I would say that as things are easing up, it looks like we're going to have a little bit more flexibility with the performances. But as you can imagine, the process of planning these performances happened when we were still in the thick of it. And so, we were following the restrictions very closely. As I think there are 3 different curating groups. So Hoopla Productions is one, Brian Friedland is another, and the record company is the third. And we were basically looking for artists who are not singing or playing horns. And then things opened up and we said, okay, well, maybe we can include some singers and some horn players. So that's made a huge difference. But I think that the power of bringing people together through music and spoken word and other art forms is always amazing in the best of times. And in this particular moment in time, it's especially fantastic. I think people are really hungry to come together through cultural experiences. And this is a free event. It costs $3 to register, but we wanted to have a low bar so that anybody can come, and we'll see where restrictions are at in terms of the numbers of folks who can be there in that moment. But we're looking for as big a crowd as we can get, and as some of you may know, the Eliot School has an amazing yard with a lot of capacity. So we're very excited.
Miranda, performing live has been very important to you, going back to when you were doing open mic nights. But the past year or so has been rough on singers. They're spreaders, as we called them, for that time. But what's it like now having this chance to go back to live performance?
Going back to live performance is very exciting for me because that's kind of what I feed off of, is crowd engagement. And having the ability to have like some sort of like applaud or like seeing their reaction is very like heartwarming and like comforting for me, because one thing I found difficult doing performances, like for example, I did a virtual performance for the MFA, and it was like I would do like this big set with like the band, and then there was like no applaud, and it was kind of weird. And I was like, oh wait, I have to act like the people at home are applauding for me. So it's kind of like good to have that crowd engagement again.
I want to ask you about that crowd contact in a way, because I looked at your clip for a song called Invitation for Love. The topic, of course, is about something personal. But when I looked at that video, it's about the personal and at the same time, the social. Explain that mix, because it says a lot about who you are.
That was like the first time I ever did like an acoustic set of one of my songs. And I really enjoyed doing that because I feel like for me, stripped down versions of songs is something I can connect more with. And I feel like it shows my personality more. So I really enjoyed performing that song. It's one of my first songs that I wrote. It's from my first EP. And just like being able to bring that feeling to life musically is kind of like the way that I'm able to express myself, because sometimes I don't like writing in journals or like talking about like feelings and stuff like that. So music is like the way that I feel like it's like freeing for me. So
Mindy, I want to ask you about another version of Miranda Ray, because you saw her performing at Porch Fest. Tell me about your impression, or maybe the impression that she made.
Well, every year at JP Porch Fest, I would say that I have one discovery. One year it was Damn Tall Buildings, where I hadn't heard them before and kind of watched them in their career take off and become a touring group of artists. And the year that I saw Miranda, I felt like she was my person. She blew me away. I usually at some point would bike around Porch Fest and just try and get a smattering of what's going on. You can imagine, as a producer and organizer, you're pretty distracted by a million things. But I landed at the brewery. There was Miranda doing soul, R&B, putting her heart out there. She has an amazing voice. She connects with the audience. And this was a super sunny day. And so people had to stay kind of distant because they were trying to find the shade. But even then, she reached us in this incredibly powerful way. And I was standing next to these two people who I hadn't met. I mean, I've been around JP for forever. And I just casually said to them, "Oh, how do you know Miranda? Do you know her music?" And they said, "Well, she's our postal worker." And that also blew me away. It's like, whoa, here's this woman who's a full-time postal worker, and here she is, an amazing artist. And so, she is a big favorite, and we've actually produced her performing in another thing before this Eliot School thing. And when we were asked to curate the Eliot School series, she was top of the list. We couldn't wait to get her, and we were so thrilled. But she's actually performing twice. Somebody else grabbed her too, so she's performing, both on, let's see if I get this right, June 13th, as well as on August 29th, which is the one that we're producing with her.
Miranda, what about that? Because Porch Fest is a good thing for a lot of emerging artists between one thing and the other. What was it like for you performing in that setting and just sort of spreading the word about what you're doing and getting people engaged?
Well, Porch Fest was actually one of the first performances I had in Boston. I'm from Boston. I was born in Cambridge, grew up in Roxbury and stuff like that. But I recently moved back in 2017. So I didn't know how to get into the scene, and I heard about Porch Fest. So I did the Fenway Porch Fest. And then I found out that, Porch Fest is kind of like a thing, they do it all over during the summer. So I was excited, and I found JP Porch Fest. And it was really great because it was a new way of kind of trying to get people to understand who I am, my talent, and that I just want to sing. That's all I wanted to do was just sing. So it was kind of a great way of getting people just on the street walking by to stop and listen. And some of them would stay for the whole hour. Some of them would be with the JP one was amazing to me because I was in this alleyway, this alley restaurant, and I thought no one was gonna come, and I was and then all of a sudden the whole lot was empty, and then it was a full lot of people, and Mindy said, it was super hot, so people were sitting. They wanted to come closer, but they were no, that's too much sun. And then so I was in the sun, but I was super happy that everybody just stayed, and then they even stayed after to find out information. I got everybody's emails, and it was just a great experience and a newfound fan base. And I knew in that moment that, okay, great, Boston is definitely gonna be a great place for me. And clearly, ever since then it has. So thank you, Mindy.
Oh, thank you.
Mindy, I know Porch Fest is more like this kind of nomadic speed dating as far as taking in music. But on the other hand, these schoolyard concerts, one thing in common is that here's a chance for people to sort of stumble in and tune into something they never heard before. Talk about that advantage.
Well, I think one thing I do want to just say shout out to Abigail Norman for her just insight as to what it would mean to bring in three curating groups who have very different perspectives. And so I think that the quality of the music is going to be amazing, and also the diversity in the kind of music that we bring is going to be very interesting. I think Porch Fest, you're right. People sometimes will just kind of move around. But I do find actually, even in that setting, people will settle into somebody that they're really wanting to hear. And I think that one of the things about all the musicians that we've lined up is that they all have fan bases of some sort. So, not only are we doing a lot of outreach to make sure that everybody knows about this event, but so are these musicians who have people who have been following them for years, or not even years, or a while, and are like, where are they? When can I see them? And here they are going to be. It's a Sunday concert, 1 hour, 4 o'clock. It's an easy time to get people to kind of settle in. We just feel like it's an ideal way to bring together some of the highest quality musicians in an awesome setting.
Well, I want to come back to Miranda because one thing people can also do is prepare themselves by looking up some of your music and getting a little more details. Is there any way they can do that online?
Yeah, definitely with this whole new way of doing music, with streaming and YouTube and stuff like that. You can find my music on all streaming platforms. I've tried to make it accessible, whether you have Android or Apple. So I'm on Google Play, I'm on Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify under the same name as Miranda Ray. And also, I'm not sure if I said YouTube, but I definitely am trying to do more interaction on YouTube because that's very important. So everything's under Miranda Ray, and that's RAE
And,
for the Ray.
and finally, Mindy, I know you've got this great lineup. You got instrumental jazz, you got acoustic guitar with a Nepalese instrument, and also some Brazilian music. I haven't even finished it on, but if people want more details, what's the best way for them to find that?
That is a good question. I think that if you go on my Facebook page, on the Jamaica Plain Porch Fest Facebook page, and on the Hoopla Productions Facebook page, you will find everything there. We're promoting all of this, but I also imagine that the record company, as well as Brian Friedland, will be promoting the 5 concerts that they have curated. We all curated 5 concerts, and I'm sure. The Eliot School has tons. They have flyers, and they're promoting stuff on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So it's kind of going to be everywhere. But I would also check out the Eliot School. I'm sure that their Facebook page and certainly their website will include more information.
Well, I thank you both very much for getting us the preview, Mindy Fried and Miranda Ray.
Yeah, great to be here, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.